All right, welcome and a very happy Thursday to you. It's Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish back in the saddle again as we're getting ready for a little preseason football coming up here, week 3, and still a lot to be determined for some of these teams playing, namely, what happens if your quarterback gets hurt? Who's the actual guy coming in to save the season and the franchise? There are some teams that are hoping to figure that out here in week 3. We have the pitching matchup of all pitching matchups tonight, Major League Baseball in Atlanta. And I can't wait to get Craig's take on this because the more I read into the story, the more it infuriates me, Craig. But I guess Marte is that good that you are just willing to look the other way when you basically have a guy in the locker room that you can't really count on, can you, there? But Arizona says he'll be available again at some particular point. They're likely going to need him, too, if they're going to make a run at this, my friend. Good to see you again.
Off next Friday night. That's not me. That's me. Great to be with you once again. I would say, we can start baseball. I'm looking forward to football, too. I got some thoughts. There's one game in particular tonight that I do want to ask you about, and you made the point, I think, that most are probably asking with football, is tonight is the backup quarterback battles. I think that's pretty accurate in a lot of different spots, and so we'll keep an eye on that. Baseball, when we last left, I don't think a ton has changed. It kind of feels very similar as far as the standings go. American League, a few teams won, a few teams lost. We're right back sort of where we were. You brought up Ketel Marte. I could kind of go a little bit further into that, sort of, giving you the landscape as to what I think is going on here, which is a couple things. First of all, Joe, as you said, that he is a really good player. He's on a contract extension, and I think the Diamondbacks will probably hold their nose for the final 3 weeks of the season and say, come back and kumbaya. Let's get to the end of the line here and see if this guy can help us. That's number one. Number two, I think it does seem like his relationship, Ketel Marte's relationship with everybody there is completely fractured and broken and will never come back. That is true, too. But, Joe, this is a business. And the business of baseball says the second that the season ends, the Diamondbacks and Mike Hazen, their GM, is going to call every team and say, we got Ketel Marte. What do you want for him? What can we get for him? And they're going to trade him. That's exactly what's going to happen. And, Joe, the way that you don't trade him is you start yelling and screaming about the player and saying he's a cancer in the clubhouse and he can't play. I mean, what good is that going to do you in 2 months from now when you're trying to trade him and you got people on record saying the guy's a horrible guy? That's why they've been very careful with a lot of the things that they're saying. I saw The Athletic also report today that he invited some of his buddies into the clubhouse to eat in the lunchroom. Never seen that in my life. I've walked by the lunchroom a million times. It's the players, it's the coaches, maybe a GM every once in a while, and maybe a family member, like a maybe. I've never seen it, but I suppose, I mean, I don't know, man. It just seems like he is completely done out of there. But the Diamondbacks are in it, Joe. If the Diamondbacks if their team name was the Rockies, Ketel Marte would be done. That'd be it. He wouldn't be playing the rest of the season. But they're in it. They still have a shot. They're going to play nice. And then you and I in the offseason can sort of dissect where he may end up, because there's no question that his time is over once the season ends in Arizona.
Yeah, it's, I mean, they'll put on a good face for this, but man, that's got to be one cold locker room when he's walking into it there, because you know the other players in there, especially the veteran guys, they ain't going to tolerate that. But they are in the middle of a race here, and they do have a pretty good opportunity, I think, to catch the Padres and maybe land that final wild card spot here. But they got to keep winning the games they're supposed to win. They've got one coming up tonight here against the Giants. We'll see how that goes. We'll talk about it. We do have a couple of games already in the books here tonight. Washington 7-1 over Colorado, and I believe the Cardinals finally figured out how to win a game. 7-5. They handled business over Baltimore. And don't look now, Baltimore all of a sudden, by the grace of mediocrity in the American League, man, I tell you, Pete Alonso has been carrying them. Other guys starting to hit, and just like that, they're very much in the conversation for that final wild card.
Yeah, Pete Alonso's not going to win the MVP, but you could say he's probably been as valuable to the Orioles the last month or so as any player in baseball has. And, seemingly, the manager had some interesting comments, I thought, the other night. There was an interview that he did where I believe they took him out of the game and they asked why. And he said, just to get him off his feet because his calf has been bothering him. And then the follow-up was, so what is wrong with his calf? And he said, there's nothing wrong with his calf. I never said that. Very strange interview that I saw with Craig Albernas, the manager of the Orioles, by the way. He's under some pressure. No, even a first-year manager, he's under some pressure. That whole franchise is under some pressure to win. But on paper, Joe, I would say that among the wild card teams, not named, Yankees and Red Sox, probably beyond that, you would say the Orioles are right there with everybody else. They're kind of just as talented pitching, hitting wise, and there's no reason they can't get in. My prediction remains the same as we hit the month of September. Some team's going to win 5 in a row. Some team's going to get in. When I last talked to you, I guess the one change that you and I talked about, and we're still a long way from this happening, was I do remember saying, hey, look, do not just throw Cleveland away. They're going to get hot. They're going to get on some run, and they are. But I don't know, Joe, do you think that 2 teams from the Central can get in? Can the White Sox win the division and Cleveland get the wild card? I mean, I guess in this wacky AL they can, but I still sort of feel like Cleveland's best path is that division. What do you think?
I agree. I think that's their best shot at it. I don't think if they don't win the division, I'm not sure they get in. But they certainly have finally started to put it together here. What, they won 8 of their last 10. The moves that they made at the trade deadline starting to pay some dividends. A healthy Ramirez obviously goes a long way. I mean, back to back, you were working with the Marlins there, but yesterday, Tom Vecchio and I had to cover those 2 games that were just over the top, out of control. The Guardians with a big, the Angels were winning that game, the entire game, until they weren't, and then they won, the Guardians. They did the same thing the night prior. And at plus 8,300, watching the Reds down 9-4 heading into the ninth inning might have been the funniest thing that we have seen in a very long time unfold. But I am with you with the Guardians. We've been waiting for the Guardians to kind of hit that streak, right? We've always said there's going to be one team down the stretch here, and we're less than 30 games now for most teams. There's going to be that one team that is finally going to put it together and maybe ride that momentum right into the postseason. It feels like the Guardians could be that, Greg, especially from what we're starting to finally see offensively from them. If they can get the quality starting pitching continuing, and there's no reason to think that they can't, to me, I think it's theirs to lose, really, at this point.
Yeah, they have pieces that resemble a postseason team. They have a closer in Kate Smith. They have 3 really good starters. They have Jose Ramirez. Kwan is back to who he was. And then, as you said, I think, look, it's hard to say that one player is going to carry them or push them to the postseason. It does feel like Joe Adell is going to end up being one of the better pickups for any team at the trade deadline. He's come through with some really big hits for them. And so, it still remains to be seen. I mean, after all, Seattle had a nice little run here. Even Kansas City ended up winning 8 in a row, I think, since last time we talked. But look, the other part of this too, Joe, Cleveland did win 10 games in a row last year to win the division in September. And so that's what sort of tells me that it's a similar team. It's the same manager. A lot of makeup and character is the same. And so, certainly why not them? But we'll see. I do not think Detroit will make it, even though Kansas City had that run that I don't really think it does anything, honestly, for them. I know that, some of those games were against the A's, honestly. But beyond that, Kansas City at least salvages a non-100 loss season, I guess. But beyond that, it's Cleveland, it's Chicago. And then that wild card is still wide open. And, the other thing that happened last time since we've talked is that, as we discussed, Houston ended up making those moves. They ended up firing their general manager. I think Joe Espada is probably going to get fired at the end of the year, too. So that's a shot in the arm also for a team. Hey, wake up. We got to make the playoffs. I think that's what happened there.
Some strange availability with players as well we'll talk about as Game Time Decisions continues. All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Raineri alongside Craig Mish. Happy to be with you here tonight as we've got some really good matchups, actually, in Major League Baseball. Going to kick off top of the hour. Milwaukee and the Mets, of course, Dodgers and Atlanta. The Yankees and Houston, two teams very much in the postseason conversation. That should be a lot of fun. Kansas City and Toronto. So a lot to talk about on that front. And it was funny, Craig, yesterday we're watching this epic meltdown of the Giants. I'm sitting there and we're having a discussion with Tom Vecchio on the show going, is this Francona's last year with the Reds? Like the Reds, I mean, they can't even beat the Giants. Yeah. They're not hitting. We went through this entire segment about the future of the Reds and how really they need to start. They got to blow it all up. And then they score 9 runs in the top of the 9th inning and they win. But I got to tell you, the move making Suarez, who had a grand slam in that 9th inning to help him. But all of a sudden, Greg, you got Eugenio Suarez, TJ Friedl. These guys, they have just cleared waivers, but it was funny because the first headlines after that game last night was, oh, yeah, the Reds are now looking to save money. They're making everyone available, right. Which you kind of alluded to and thought may happen, too, at some point.
The Reds, I just am really disappointed with the season they've had, and I understand they did win yesterday. I was following that as I was getting home from the game last night. The pathetic thing is it's against the Giants, and the Giants have just been absolutely brutal. I saw Tony Vitello's press conference after the game last night, Joe. I don't know. That feels like a gone man walking there in San Francisco, too. It could be both teams end up losing their managers at the end of the season. So, when you put a guy on waivers at this stage of the season, you basically are asking just another team if you want the player for free. And the other thing that tells you is it tells you that they had no taker for Suarez at the trade deadline. They probably, Joe, would have given him away for free in July, too, and nobody wanted him there either. So that's it. They revert back and they play with their team. Suarez, simply put, based on his salary for this year, I guess it's probably about $2 million maybe remaining for him. No team wanted to take on Suarez and take on $2 million in payroll for the final month of the season. And in terms of Friedl, he's just had such a bad year. I guess that's kind of what they're thinking there, too. Look, a lot of teams are also going to be careful. We have a collective bargaining fight coming on here. Yep. You really have to know that you're going to make the playoffs to take some money on right now at this stage of the season, Joe. Like you're not going to just say, oh, yeah, we have a work stoppage. Let's just take on $3-4 million. Let's just take on $2 million. Not going to happen here for 20 teams in the league, probably. And that's kind of what will happen. But you're going to hear this with other teams, too, before September 1st, because, again, you have to be on the roster by September 1st to be playing for the playoffs. So that's coming up over the next few days. I suspect some fun names and some big names will be out there as well. I honestly can't say what these teams are thinking, but I just don't think anybody with a high salary is going anywhere, because I just don't think teams are going to add significant money with everything that's looming in the offseason. I just don't see it.
Yeah, they're not, that's interesting because, at least Suarez, it's a power bat. I mean, he's going to have, 19, 20 home runs on the season. Granted, he's never a guy that's going to hit 300, but you would think that at that price tag, Greg, like somebody at least making a run would want a power bat somewhere in that lineup there. But if they couldn't trade him at the trade deadline, I think that pretty much tells you everything you need to know about what the market thinks of him. Maybe just not worth the, $2.5-3 million that remain on his contract, which for power hitters felt kind of cheap, no?
It is, but I'm guessing that if we looked around the league at all the teams that are going to potentially make the playoffs, they probably have guys that have a far higher OPS than Suarez's, which is right around 700. I mean, that's very low for a guy that's going to strike out 35% of the time. It's no knock on him. If I had to guess, Suarez next season, I don't think that he will be a NRI in spring training, Joe. Let's assume a regular season. I don't think he'll be an NRI, but Joe, I don't think he's going to get more than $3 or $4 million guaranteed on a one-year deal. And then if that doesn't work out, guess what he is the following year? He's a non-roster invitee to spring training. I mean, he's at that point in his career. Friedl, a little more interesting just because he was so good a couple of years ago. I really don't know what has happened to him. But both of those players, Joe, even though they did score, I think it was, like you said, 8 or 9 runs, whatever it was, Joe, it feels like the Reds are getting shut out almost every night with that offense. Like I look at the score, 2-0. I look at the score, 7-0, 10-0. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's two guys that are basically playing every day for them. So a little bizarre. I don't know. Maybe somebody will get claimed here in the next few days. We'll have to see who they try to get rid of, who teams try to get rid of.
Well, it's help could be on the way. We learned, even though they seem to be firing from the top down, the Astros seem to be going through some changes there, firing their general manager, right, last week, Craig. And well, we did learn that Carlos Correa is next week, could be back September for the Astros, who are trying to make a push and a run here. And that would be a big boost to this team, who offensively, outside of you-know-who, has been pretty inconsistent here. And they should not be. This is a team that should be scoring, 6-7 runs a game here against inferior pitching. But Correa would be a good boost for this team if they can get him back in September.
Yeah, Dana Brown, it's not that he did, Joe, a terrible job as GM. It's just like when you look at him, can you identify any like great move the Astros have made under him, free agent or trade? Doesn't it feel like they've just gotten worse progressively every single year? And, certainly I don't know, Joe, the machinations as to like what that conversation is like with Dana Brown and Jim Crane, the owner. But I'm going to guess in the offseason, Jim Crane said to Dana Brown, hey, we do not have Greinke or Verlander or Keuchel or Cole or anyone. Go get us some pitcher. And their rotation, Joe, was horrible. And they may have, had a complete bust with this guy Imai from Japan. I mean, think about that. The owner says, go ahead and give this guy $50-60 million. And 2 weeks into the season, he's like, I don't like it here. I'm not comfortable. I mean, like, don't you say, like, wait a second here. Like, did you do your research? Did you look into this guy? And I think that's part of it. And unfortunately for Joe Espada, I think his time's going to come to a quick end too here with Houston, unless, Joe, somehow they make this miraculous run toward the playoffs. I don't, at this point, it can't be a very positive atmosphere that's going on there. And the other question, Joe, that you have to ask yourself is if Houston doesn't make it, and let's say Seattle climbs in or some other team, does Houston hit that reset button like they did 10 years ago when Jeff Luna was the GM and just dismantle everything and then start over the draft process of getting younger and starting over? I think there's a chance that happens. And then what happens to Yordan? That'll be a fun talk.
Hey, where is it? All right, welcome back in. Here we go. Game time decisions on the Sports Grid Network. And yes, we're going to help you make some of those decisions here. As just after the top of the hour, we got some pretty good Major League Baseball games coming your way. We do also have, of course, week 3 of the preseason here, Craig. I'm looking forward to as some decisions need to be made in the final preseason game. We've got Pittsburgh and Buffalo tonight, New England and Cleveland. San Francisco, Vegas, Rams, and the Chargers. I think the Cleveland-New England matchup is fascinating because now that we already know Deshaun Watson's getting set up to fail by Coach Todd Monken there, make no mistake about it, the big question is, okay, is it Shador? Is it Dylan Gabriel? There is going to be a battle for the backup spot who eventually could be the starter for Cleveland. And listen, I give Tommy DeVito has played very well behind Drake May and the Patriots, and he is battling to make this roster. He's battling to make the backup spot here for Drake May in New England, which would be huge. So something tells me the quarterback play is going to be front and center with New England and the Browns here tonight. And if I'm the Browns, like I don't want to hear about Deshaun Watson. Like, I need to score some points. I need to play some football. I need to get something positive going on here tonight versus New England.
So it sure does feel to me that a month ago, we looked at the season and we said, and it was very easy to identify the 2 worst teams in the NFL, and those were Miami and Arizona. It sure felt like that. And as the preseason has gone on and as these joint practices have gone on, it sure feels like Cleveland is asking, can we come into this mix here? Like, can we throw our hat in the ring to be the worst team in the NFL? Because there's no way, Joe, that they make this move without actively, to me, trying to tank. I mean, Deshaun Watson, to me, is awful. He looked awful in the games that he played. I think Jacksonville's defense in week 1 of the NFL is probably going to score. Like, I think that's the best scoring chance, I think, in the NFL out of the gate. I was shocked that they made this move. And they didn't even have to say anything, Joe, now. Why did they even have to say something going into this? I'm not sure. Yeah, Cleveland is going to be very bad. And maybe, look, that's the idea. Look, some teams in the NFL, Miami, Arizona, and Cleveland, all know they're not going to win. So why would you try to win 8 games with Shador Sanders or Dylan Gabriel? We may as well make Watson earn some of the money that he made, get destroyed. But hey, we're paying the guy to get destroyed. You got to just take it and eat it. I think that's going on there. I got nothing else besides that. So for me, yes, that's part of the equation tonight. I think the other one tonight, too, is the way that DJ Uiagalelei has played for the Chargers. Has he all of a sudden maybe become the backup to Herbert? If I'm not mistaken, Herbert is the only starting quarterback that's going to play tonight. Jim Harbaugh said that he will play, and then behind him it's Trey Lance, who I thought was the backup, but it could be him and it could be Uiagalelei.
Yeah, and that's a battle too. I mean, Trey Lance going to be interesting now. Second year in the system. We're going to see what he can get done. And if you're Vegas, right? What are you doing here? The more reps, the better. Because if you are going with Kirk Cousins as your starting quarterback, well, then you got to give this kid as many reps as Mendoza, as many reps as possible, right, Greg? I mean, there's no reason not to play him unless he's the starting quarterback game 1.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Raiders had the injury to Genti, so they got to be a little bit careful. You know, when that happens, it doesn't affect the quarterback, but it kind of does a little bit, Joe. It's like when you lose a player in camp, it opens you up to some scrutiny to say, hey, you already knew that Genti was out, and now you're playing all your guys. I think the Raiders are going to be really careful tonight. I don't like them tonight in this preseason game. I think they're going to sleepwalk through it. The other thing that I do want to mention here, and look, part of it I definitely think is because I'm involved so heavily more in baseball this year, broadcasting games, but I do feel that this is, if not the worst, it is the most anonymous NFL preseason that we've ever had, Joe, in our lifetimes. Like, I don't ever remember a time where no one has cared, no one is watching, very little discussion, very little highlights being posted on social media, almost nothing from the games. I see a lot from these joint practices that are going on, people talking about it and who's dominating, but these actual, NFL preseason games, Joe, I mean, this is the worst, I think, of all in our lives. There was always like one game or two that was fun. We didn't get any of that as we wrap up here in week 3.
Yeah, no. Well, I'll tell you what we have gotten is we've gotten a Bills going scorched earth from day one in this preseason. They have steamrolled everybody that they have played. They dismantled the Panthers 29-14. They blew out the Browns 31-7. No Josh Allen tonight, but I guarantee you they are not taking the foot off the gas in this game here tonight against the Steelers. But you know what? Who's backing up your 42-year-old quarterback, Pittsburgh? We still have to figure that one out, and that is going to be on display tonight. So a lot more to get to as game time decisions, getting ready for a big night here on the grid. It's usually a 2-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week 1. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. Like, that didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, Joe's looking really nice there, but a little bit cold and frozen, as they would say. Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on a Sports Grid. I'm Craig Mish. We'll get Joe back here in a couple of minutes as we get ready for some Major League Baseball action and some NFL preseason action as well. We'll kind of break down the latest in Major League Baseball and, of course, get you ready for the first pitch, which is coming up pretty soon. And to dive in a little bit deeper, let's get into this big matchup tonight that's going on in Atlanta. It's probably the best sporting event of the night, fair to say, unless you love a different baseball game or an NFL preseason game of some sort. We've got the Dodgers taking on the Atlanta Braves, Joe. It is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and he will take on Chris Sale. I know those are the starters, and you were talking off the air a little bit with me just about the state of where these bullpens are at. So is it possible that both starting pitchers are going to be forced to go deeper into the game maybe than we expect in this game? I see pretty much minus 110 on both sides in this game. But hey, Yamamoto's been pitching great. Sale is obviously awesome. Both these guys are going to be inside the top 5 in the Cy Young Award. I do think the Miz wins the Cy Young, but these two guys are having a great years too.
Yeah, they absolutely are. I mean, it's the pitching battle of the night, but there's a lot of spots here where the Dodgers are plus money with Yamamoto on the mound. How many times this year do you think we've seen that? Never.
Zero.
Exact.
Zero.
And you're talking about an Atlanta Braves team, and they've had some teams over the years, but they have not actually swept the Dodgers in any series since 2013, Craig. And they're on the verge of doing it here tonight. despite the fact that they have had every break known to mankind in the first 2 games of this series, which, by the way, they're not winning 11-1. They've won in the 9th inning. They had a walk-off the other night with a guy that hasn't hit a home run in 9 months. This is, when you got it rolling, you got it rolling. But as good as Chris Sale has been, and he's been fantastic, that bullpen has gotten worked a little bit, trying to hold leads in these last couple of games. So I looked at the total at 6.5 because you don't see many 6.5s. But the pitching, the starting pitching, certainly warrants that price, Craig. But the problem is, unless these guys are going 8 innings, at some point the bullpens have to get involved again here, and both lineups aren't slouches. So, as good as these starting pitchers have been, both lineups are more than capable. Dodgers certainly capable and very capable. I think 117 WRC plus against lefties on the season. It's not like you're going to be fooling them. And Yamamoto, I think, has 12 or 13 innings in his career against Atlanta, and I don't think he's given up an earned run yet. So this is setting up for a great starting pitching battle. I worry about the under once the bullpens get involved, which, unless both guys are going 9 innings, but against these lineups, I don't think that's happening either.
No, I don't think so. That's a great point. Yeah, I do think that, if I kind of look a little bit deeper into the matchup, is it possible with everything that is sort of on the line the rest of the year with the Dodgers, is it possible that the Dodgers are even a dog in any game the rest of the year? Not just with Yamamoto. Like I'm looking at their schedule here, and I see San Diego maybe in a spot, but I mean, just for the most part, I think they're going to be favored. So if you're feeling, like LA, you're never going to get plus money on them. Maybe this is the night to do it, certainly. And as you said, they definitely can mash a little bit against lefties, but I don't know that that's a huge factor because Dodgers are just going to hit anyone. But I'm, obviously very impressed with Yamamoto. Usually guys that pitch deep into the postseason, like Yamamoto did, and then actually pitch like the last game of the World Series, usually those guys take a little bit of a hit the next year. He took no hit whatsoever, maybe a little bit of a slow start in April, but beyond that, still one of the very best pitchers in baseball. And I would probably guess that at the very worst, he'll finish 3rd in the NL Cy Young Award this year, Joe. He's really come on.
Well, and he has already proven how many times in big games when the spotlight's the brightest, who do you want? The Dodgers don't get swept. And the Dodgers, Atlanta hasn't done it since 2013. So I tend to think it's the right guy at the right time. And it's funny, he gives credit, Craig, to the Hunter Fiducia, I think, is how you say his last name.
Yes.
A backup catcher that apparently Yamamoto loves and says that this is the guy, really. He's, I have been as good as I have been because this guy's mine to play calling it. So that's a very fascinating relationship to me, that whole Yamamoto backup catcher situation. We've seen it before throughout the years, but man, that's real interesting here with the Dodgers, how they have this set up with him.
Yeah, Fiducia was with the Dodgers last season. He got a World Series ring, and then he was on Tampa Bay this year. And I think you're right, Joe. I think the Dodgers may have gotten him back for that reason. And then the Rays, the Rays just needed some sort of offense from their catchers. They decided they couldn't roll with Fiducia and Nick Fortes. And then they acquired Miami's Liam Hicks. And boy, has he been on a tear since he has joined Tampa Bay. So it worked out, I think, for both sides. The other part of this, Joe, is that you never know if the Dodgers make this deal, if Will Smith is 100% healthy or Dalton Rushing is 100% healthy. Like maybe never happens for Yamamoto, but if he is going to shove with that guy, as you said, behind the plate, there's no question that the Dodgers will sacrifice the offense because Fiducia doesn't really give you almost any offense at all. But look, those guys, Joe, they last around the league forever. If you're a personal catcher of one of the best pitchers in baseball, you're around for 20 years if you want to be.
Yes.
And so I guess that's part. I mean, just think about AJ Ellis. He was the catcher for, if I'm not mistaken, Kershaw for 10 years or 15 years, or was it Barnes? One of those two guys, just like they were around just forever, like doing nothing. It's a great gig to have if you could get it.
Really good gig because as those guys need interpreters, well, they have their catchers too. And guess what? You're going to be, as long as they're employed, you're employed cashing a check. So should be a fascinating game. But I do think that if you have lost as many times, they have been one of the worst run line teams this year, the Dodgers. You have an opportunity to get the Dodgers at plus price with their best pitcher on the mound. So win or lose, to me, Craig, in this spot, it's the right play. I don't care. One way or the other, I would much rather have the ticket in my pocket than wake up tomorrow and go, I cannot believe I had the Dodgers at plus money and I did not back it. So I just think it's the right play at the right time here. Should be a fun one. Garrett Cole on the mound, too, at home for the Yankees tonight. Wisniewski going for Houston. And just like that, Yankees seem to have found some offense finally. Bellinger comes back. And I got to tell you, the move for Ruiz there that they got from Washington.
Garcia.
Garcia. He is, what a great move by the Yankees there. He has been absolutely destroying it. Bellinger now really kind of solidifies that. We're hearing Judge is likely headed to a rehab assignment here for the next couple of weeks. So if the Yankees can all of a sudden start scoring 7, 8, 9 runs a game again, I like the chances here, and I certainly like them with Cole on the mound here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of complaining about the Yankees going on, and they're 18 games over 500. Like, this team is going to win 90 games, and it's just not good enough for anybody. But that's just the dynamic of being a Yankees fan. Look, they do have, some little issues here going on, of course. I hate to see it and say it, but look, I mean, George Lombard has made errors in 5 games in a row. Like, there's something going on there. They're going to have to get that fixed because all of a sudden this guy went from the toast of the Bronx to now, people are mentioning Volpe in the same conversation. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm watching the same thing everyone else is. I see a play, he doesn't make it, and it's an error. I don't. Is it headspace stuff? No clue. He's a young player. They'll have to get that fixed. That's what everyone's complaining about naturally, Joe, today. But I do expect the Yankees to win tonight. I don't think it'll be particularly close. Houston's still under 500. They were teetering around 500 or above, but Cole is like surging to the finish here. And I don't trust Wisniewski at all. So even at a run and a half here, I don't give Houston much of a shot. And this is like, Seattle's playing a little bit better. Like starting tomorrow, like this is Seattle's time to really. Texas, I'm out on Seattle completely because I don't like them. But reality is they're in it.
They are very much in it, unfortunately. More game time decisions coming your way next. It's usually a 2-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week 1. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. Like, that didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle is been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
right, welcome back in. Here we go. Game time decisions on the SportsGrid network. As we do have some decisions to make here. Major League Baseball coming up here tonight. We've got preseason week number 3. Loaded slate at the top. And again, not that we're going to get a whole lot of starters, but we are, in fact, going to get a lot of backups and a lot of depth to be decided here this week. So still a little something on the line for a lot of these teams and a lot of players playing for contracts. Does that mean that we're going to see good football? Likely not. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. Let's bring in our good friend Jacob Kameniger here on Game Time Decisions, because Jacob, you and I were just talking off air. Listen, football's football. We get week 0. I got to watch Bill Belichick try to win games at North Carolina, which is entertaining on itself. But I mean, T-minus 13 days and counting now before the NFL season kicks off. And there are a lot of questions still with a lot of teams here that, I mean, Josh Jacobs just got charged with 2 misdemeanors in court for domestic violence. The NFL hasn't said anything as far as suspension goes, but if I'm Green Bay, are we comfortable that we have enough with the running game heading into the season here?
I personally wouldn't be that comfortable with the depth behind Josh Jacobs. Now, I don't know what the NFL is going to do in terms of potential suspension. They tend to take a long time to review cases like this, so I'm not sure that we're going to get a decision about Jacobs this season. But behind him, I believe they have Marshawn Lloyd, who's just never been able to stay healthy. They lost Emmanuel Wilson, who I liked as a solid backup for them. He signed with the Seahawks in free agency, so I'm not sure that they have really enough there to get by. If Jacobs is out long-term, they'd probably have to rely more on their passing game. So certainly something to monitor with his legal issues. It's just a matter of when will the NFL kind of address this and potentially consider a suspension. Will it be this year, next year? I don't know yet.
Jacob, first of all, it's great to see you again and great to catch up with you. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it here on Game Time Decisions. I know you're real busy this time of the year getting ready for the start of the NFL season. Joe and I were talking about preseason a little bit, and I do think the intriguing part of tonight's games in particular are some of the backup quarterbacks that are, starting to make their way a little bit. Drew Aller, Will Howard. I think also in Los Angeles with the Chargers tonight, we're going to learn a little bit more potentially who their backup could end up being too. Beyond that, what has been like the storyline for you as you are writing and doing the work that you're doing? I was talking to Joe, my co-host here. I feel like this is the most anonymous preseason in my lifetime. Like I really just, it's been quiet, it feels like, for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Craig, by the way. Glad to see you too. Glad to be back with you guys here. So thank you for having me, of course. But it has been sort of anonymous. This was a weird preseason where there was only one legitimate quarterback competition that was ongoing into the first couple weeks of the preseason. The Vikings named Kyler Murray the starter before the preseason began. The Raiders, they haven't officially named Kirk Cousins the starter, but all indications are that's going to be the case. So really all you've been seeing is who's Cleveland going to start. And between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders, it was really a coin flip. I don't agree with the decision to start Watson. I would have gone with Sanders solely because he's the younger guy. He has more upside, and his second game was so much better than what Watson put on the field, and then Watson's strange post-game interview. So that's really been the major storyline of this preseason, though. Aside from that and a few rookie debuts, there hasn't been a whole lot of pop from this preseason. I think it has everything to do with the fact that there weren't really many quarterback competitions. There were only a couple of first-round quarterbacks, and, one of the potential breakout stars, Carson Beck, who started the preseason so well, he got a rib injury and really wasn't able to play the rest of the way. So, you've kind of had a lot of that with any of the rookie stars who could have built hype as they've gone. A lot of them got banged up. So it's been a weird preseason from that perspective. I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah. How do you think J.J. McCarthy's feeling right now, Jacob, as he is likely losing the backup role to Carson Wentz? Now, to give Carson Wentz credit, he knows the offense. He's been there, with O'Connell. He knows what's going on, but he is outplayed J.J. McCarthy. Now, remind us, 10th overall pick just a few years ago, he likely may not be wearing a Minnesota uniform here, despite the fact that Kyler Murray can't see over the offensive line, according to his coach. But what do you do if you're Minnesota? Are you trying to find a trade partner? Because he's not well liked in a locker room either.
Yeah, I think this, Joe, reminds me a lot of the Anthony Richardson situation with the Colts. You know, we went into last offseason and we thought, hey, Anthony Richardson's going to beat Daniel Jones. And then if he struggles as a starter, Jones is going to come in and replace him, and that'll be the end of that. But then once Jones won the thing, Richardson ended up in this weird spot where it's like, oh, they've kind of given up on him, but they're not fully giving up on him. They still hung on to him. He requested a trade this offseason. He's still there. I think McCarthy could find himself in kind of a similar situation where, you know, the Vikings are going to want to, if they want to get rid of him, they're going to want to get something for him. But what is his trade value? It's going to be pretty close to non-existent. Teams aren't going to be looking at McCarthy and saying, hey, this is a guy that maybe could be a franchise quarterback. He's a reclamation project at this point, and teams just aren't going to be willing to give up much for that. So I think in a weird way, Minnesota's probably going to be stuck with J.J. McCarthy there. They may just keep him this season, try to develop him behind Kyler, see if he can make some strides. I mean, there was a time late in last season where it looked like he was taking some steps forward, but it wasn't really going to be enough to make him like a surefire starter. So I think it's a tough situation for him. He's just going to have to abide by what Minnesota wants to do. And if he ends up as the third string quarterback, he's probably just going to have to work his tail off behind the scenes and prove that he belongs in the NFL. But it's a really tough situation for him. And I don't think Minnesota is just going to let him shake loose, you know?
No, I don't think so either. But again, Sunday brings some interesting moves in the NFL. It's cut down day. Maybe McCarthy, who knows, is headed somewhere else on Sunday. I wouldn't be shocked by that, by the way. Okay, so Pittsburgh situation. They're the first game on our board here tonight, Jacob. It starts in about 15, 20 minutes. I'm watching Aller here in the pregame working out. I'm watching Will Howard on the pregame working out too. How do you think this all shakes out in Pittsburgh? Because as we saw 2 years ago, Aaron Rodgers is one play away maybe from not playing. You never know. So somebody could end up playing behind him.
Yeah, I think, Craig, I think Pittsburgh would probably like to keep both Howard and Aller in the fold if they can. I just don't know if they're going to keep four quarterbacks because they also have Mason Rudolph there, but it wouldn't shock me if they go into the season and say, hey, these two young guys have shown enough. Let's keep four quarterbacks. Let's see how the veterans do. And if someone gets banged up, we'll at least have depth there. But I like the upside of Howard and Aller. I think it's a good kind of developmental route to take behind Rodgers if they're comfortable rolling with him for this season.
Jacob, hang out one more segment for us if you could. Want to ask you a couple other questions as we're getting ready for more preseason NFL football on Game Time Decisions. It's usually a two-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. Like, that didn't help.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Here we go. Game time decisions as we look to wrap up this first hour together. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. Jacob Countergood joining us once again here. And Jacob, it was funny. We were talking Raiders a little earlier. Also have a game tonight against the 49ers. 49ers ownership has a bit of a problem, but that's another story. But Vegas, what are we doing here? I better see nothing but Mendoza tonight. If he's not starting the season as your starter, he needs to get as many reps as possible. Now, granted, Aston Genti, I guess they weathered that storm, right? Not as dreadful as they thought it might be, but it should be the Mendoza show, right? If he's not your starter, how else are you getting him the reps then if he's not playing here tonight?
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think this has to be a game where you throw Mendoza out there, you let him play 3 quarters maybe. Maybe they take him out a little bit earlier if he has a good go of it, but this is where he's going to get a lot of reps. And I think, personally, I think it's smart to kind of keep him on the bench at least to start the season because you have Cousins. You know, you're not expected to be a contender this year. Just let Mendoza get more comfortable in that offense. Make sure your offensive line is kind of gelling. You have a new center in there who's an excellent center, but, you know, it takes time for offensive lines to gel and the new system to get in place. So I like the plan, but tonight it should absolutely be the number one goal to get Mendoza a lot of reps. Let him throw 20, 25 passes, see what he can do, see how he looks, and, you know, move from there. And I think that's what we'll see tonight.
Hope so, and I'll be looking forward to that game as well with several games on the schedule this evening. Since we have Jacob here for a couple more minutes, I'm going to pivot over to the weekend here. One game that I'll keep an eye on here are the Miami Dolphins taking on the Atlanta Falcons. In my area, that's a big game, Joe's area too. But I'm going to go to the Falcons here for a minute, Jacob, because it looks like Tua Tagovailoa has almost no chance to be the starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, or even some whispers, will he even play for the Falcons this season based on what we've seen in the preseason? And you know, Jacob, things get crazy on Sunday. It's impossible to predict what's going to happen, but we're going to get shocked by a player or two getting cut. I don't know that Tua's in that boat just yet, because the Falcons would really have to come to terms with Penix and no one else. But what has happened here to Tua over the last year, his stock value, think of where it was a year ago, Jacob, to where it is right now. What's gone wrong?
Yeah, it's totally plummeted, Craig. And I just think, look, Tua was a good prospect. I really liked him coming out of Alabama. His whole thing was he didn't have the strongest arm, but he had great accuracy and ball placement. And we saw Mike McDaniel kind of get the most out of him. I think as he's gotten and dealt with the injuries and the concussions, you know, Tua's had to focus so much on that it's impacted other parts of his game, whether it's his accuracy, his footwork, his just having to avoid contact at all costs. I think it's hurt him from that perspective, and we've just seen him decline because of that. And then that's where his lack of upper tier arm strength kind of shows, where he can't really compensate for this. So I think that kind of explains his decline. I think the Falcons are truly in a terrible place at quarterback. I say this as someone who really liked Michael Penix as a prospect. Craig, we talked about it very often on your show leading up to that. I was excited about him. But the injury issues with him just haven't allowed him to develop. Then you have Tua as his backup, another injury-prone guy. And then beyond them, they don't have anything. They have this guy named Jack Strand, who's an undrafted free agent out of, I don't even remember what school it was, but it was a very small school. He's looked good this preseason, but obviously you don't want a situation where he's going to be starting at any point this season. Right. So I look at the Falcons quarterback room and I say, man, if Penix cannot pan out, this has a potential to be one of the worst quarterback rooms and one of the most frustrating to watch in all of the league this season.
Think about Stefanski. He's celebrating, I get out of Cleveland, because that quarterback room is terrible. And he walks into one that's even worse. The fact that they could not tell the world that Tua is our starting quarterback and leave Penix to be able to heal on his own, he can't do that because Tua hasn't played himself into any position, which is just mind-blowing to me. Jets-Giants this weekend. Interesting matchup here. I don't want the Jets to win more than 2 games, Jacob, because I want that first pick next year. But the Giants, what have you seen from them so far?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, we saw the big play, obviously, that happened was when Jackson Dart took that horrible sack. Not his fault, but he just got smoked coming up the middle. Tyrone Tracy had a miss in pass protection, I believe, and Jay Ward just knocked the wind out of Jackson Dart. And that was sort of an ominous start to this Giants season in terms of you look at this Giants team and you could sell me on there being upside there. I like Jackson Dart's skill set. I like Cam Scadaboo's skill set. I like Malik Neighbors' skill set. But the injury issues they have on offense could completely derail them. They have to stay healthy to be good. And I'm just not sure they're going to be able to do that. They're a boom or bust team this year, guys. I think they have upside, but if one of those three key playmakers can't stay healthy, it could be a long season in New York once again.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a long season for both New York teams, Jacob. Who are we kidding here? But it better be longer for the Jets because I need that #1 pick. Jacob Kamik, I appreciate it. As always, it's good seeing you, my man. Football is here, and we've got another hour of game time decisions straight ahead here on the grid. It's usually a two-horse race. Houston or Jacksonville with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here, off and running another hour together on Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish here, and we got some baseball getting ready to get underway. And, of course, I believe the first of the preseason Week 3 games coming up. Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Craig, you got an eye on that. That total, by the way, is dropped a little bit here. We'll see what's going on. No Josh Allen tonight for the Buffalo Bills, but the Buffalo Bills have gone scorched earth this preseason. They have made it known they have no intention of losing anything at any particular time. So Pittsburgh on the road in Buffalo trying to figure out who's backing up a 42-year-old quarterback. Craig, that's my big question with Pittsburgh. Is it Drew Aller? I don't know that anybody likes Mason Rudolph. I guess maybe it's the safe option. But if I'm McCarthy, are you winning with safe? Is that really where we're at right now with the Steelers?
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. I agree with you, Joe. I think that eventually one of these two guys that are playing tonight are going to end up being the backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I guess the reason why is because for me, outside of maybe a 4 or 5 game stretch, has Mason Rudolph ever proven that he can just hold it down, Joe? I'm not talking about being good because you know my feeling on backup quarterbacks. I don't think any of them are good. But I'm just talking about, like, give me 10 points a game and somehow to a win. Not really. I feel like Rudolph's only done that 1 year. Look, these are two young players who played at a very high level in college. Maybe Howard even more so than Aller, honestly. Howard was really good in college. Aller was kind of a manager, I think, a little bit more at Penn State. I am with you. I think there's a chance of that happening. Maybe going into the season, Rudolph is the backup, and then one of those two guys makes it. I think Jacob did bring up a good point. I don't know how they keep all four of those guys, Joe, but I would say this. I think that if Pittsburgh cuts one of those two, I think that one of them may get picked up by another team. I think that there's enough talent there as a third string quarterback potentially to go to another squad. So we'll see both in action tonight, and I'm sure that both are hoping, even if they play well, maybe one of them gets another destination after the game is over.
Yep, could very well be here on the road. Not a exact Bills Mafia. They show up. New stadium, by the way. Don't forget this year for Buffalo. They'll be playing. So some new digs for them and Bills Mafia coming up tonight. Yankees, by the way, being pushed back. It looks like about 20 minutes here. 7:15, okay. 7:20 is what they're looking at first pitch there. But Kansas City, Toronto will be first up here in a couple of minutes. Noah Cameron on the mound for Kansas City. Arrighetti, I don't know what happened to Arrighetti there, but they moved on from Houston. Now, all of a sudden, Toronto has him. Toronto's battling for that final wild card spot. But Kansas City has been, listen, they're finally starting to hit the ball. It's amazing what happens when you get some offensive consistency. And Noah Cameron's been pretty good here down the stretch, has he not?
Cameron's been really good. So, yeah, this is not like a complete throwaway type game. And I think we could be in for a battle here. You know, the other thing that's happened with Kansas City being the best, am I going to say this, the best team in baseball over the last couple of weeks? I guess I have to. I guess it's true, even though the A's are sprinkled in there, is that, Joe, their bullpen, which I believe was the very worst in baseball, they have gotten some things figured out. And I look, Joe, I know it sounds crazy and you're going to laugh, but Craig Kimbrell is pitching well for the Royals. Craig Kimbrell is closing games for the Royals. And, and Nate Pearson, who was on the Blue Jays, is now on the Royals. He's been good as well. They have a kid, Cruz, who's been pitching well. I mean, all of a sudden, that's why Kansas City's winning. They're leading after 7, and they're winning some games. When they look back at the end of the season, outside of Washington, I think Kansas City's blown as many or more games than I think they have the most in the American League, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of why the Royals have played better. I think you and I would agree on paper, the Royals, no way did we think they were going to lose 100 games. This is a team that maybe was supposed to make the playoffs. So I am kind of thinking that Kansas City, down the stretch for the last 30 or so games, probably a 500 team, maybe even a little bit better than that. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, really, actually pretty good here. I'm kind of shocked, but we'll see how it goes here. Toronto, they series tied 1-1. I think this is really for the series win in this spot here. So a little bit at stake here. Arrighetti is just, he's thrown just far, missed too many balls over the plate, and usually that means home run. And that's the problem here. Arrighetti gave up 3 runs, 3 hits, 3 1/3 in his Blue Jays debut. That was 6 days ago. He did have a couple of rehab starts in AAA before he reported to Toronto. But listen, last year he was pretty good. Struck out a ton of guys, had a lot of swing and miss stuff, but not the same pitcher right now that he was a year ago. But over 8.5, you expecting some? I could see some runs happening in this game here. What about you?
I'm not sure. Again, the Royals pitching has been much better now. I don't know. Maybe the Royals team total. Maybe the Royals team total. I'm not sure about that though, Joe. No, I don't think so. I think.
What do you think with Guerrero? I mean, he was 1 for 4. He's got 7 home runs on the season. Like, what am I missing with Guerrero here? Is he? You think he's just hurt? And if he is, why is he not? Why have you not shelved him at this
still
point?
Kind of in it. Again? Yeah, they're still kind of in it. Like I guess so. That I guess that's kind of the way that they're playing this out. But I'm looking here at Kansas City's lineup here.
They had him batting second last night.
I'm looking at both lineups here for your total. Rave, Rojas, Isbell, 7, 8, 9 for Kansas City. I don't know.
It ain't any better for Toronto, too. You're
no,
right.
neither team. No, I'm looking at both teams. I don't love runs tonight. You know, the thing is with Arrighetti, I guess that's the thing is
the wild card.
Joe, 52 walks for Arrighetti in 91 innings.
I know.
Man.
Yeah,
maybe you're onto something there, but I think it's more the Royals than it is Toronto tonight.
It's going to be an interesting one, I'll tell you that. The other interesting game is going to happen with the Mets tonight here. I'm looking forward to this one also at Citi Field. Mizorowski on the mat. I thought this might get 6.5, maybe 6, but it appears that the market doesn't think Manaea brings the same level of confidence that Mizorowski does. But listen, I got to give the Mets credit here. No Soto, no, they trade everyone away, and they've actually become a pretty decent baseball club ever since. And a lot of that has to do with the offense. They've been scoring runs. Feels like a low number here. What happens when Miz leaves here at the point? It's not like the Brewers have been destroying teams here over the last couple of weeks.
No, but if you're going to go over, then you're going to assume that the Mets have a shot, by the way, in this one. And by the way, I do want to mention here, we didn't give a lot of people to bet that Royals team total, but Bobby Witt, second pitch of the game, has just hit a home run. So they already are off to a 1-0 lead on.
Looks like that over.
Or I'm sorry, it wasn't Bobby. It wasn't him. It was Carter Jensen. My bad. Carter Jensen leading off today. So 1-0 already, Royals.
So what is Witt up second?
I guess so.
He must
looks
be
like
second
Witt.
in the
I gotta
lineup.
tell you, Jensen looks a lot like Witt. I mean, it's got the hair popping out of the helmet. I mean,
that's crazy.
But I should have known he's a lefty, though. I'm stupid. I should have known he's a lefty. But going back to that's the thing is with the Brewers, Joe, is that if they lead 3-2, you're not going over on that one in the 6th inning.
No,
you know,
like
not. that's the tough dynamic there. But the Mets have played better. I will give them that. Maybe a +1.5 tonight. Maybe.
Oh, look at you! Listen, Manaea actually hasn't been terrible. Am I missing something here? I mean, he's been okay, right? But Miz's K prop, what do we think? 7.5.
Mets, no Polanco anymore for them. I don't know.
That's a big number. Even for him, that's a big number.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll go under. I'll go under that.
I kind of think that's a big number here. The guy's not going to strike 10 out every game here, guys. It's just not going to happen. But we're going to have lefty versus righty here tonight. When you throw 103 miles an hour, you tend to get a lot of swing and misses. We'll see what we're going to get here tonight. I think this is going to be a sneaky good game, though. Mets at Milwaukee. We'll have more coming up for you here on Game Time Decisions. All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as we're getting you ready here on this Thursday. We got a little football. We got a little Major League Baseball going on. A couple of games already started here. They just went live there with Miz on the mound for the Brewers taking on the Mets. That's just underway. Craig told you there. You saw Kansas City lead off with a home run. 1-0, still top of the first. Arrighetti versus Cameron in that one. And it looks like the Mets, or the Yankees rather, in Houston, Craig, going to be about 10 minutes away. They're looking to get that thing started. I guess a little bit of weather going on there. But Yankees minus 150, 155 favorite with Garrett Cole on the mound. It feels like a price worth laying here with the way the Yankees are finally starting to hit the ball.
I do. I like the Yankees tonight. I think that they have a great shot. More of an indictment probably on Houston, but Cole is pitching very well. I know the Yankees aren't scoring a ton of runs right now, and they're sort of figuring out different ways to win. But my faith in the Astros is certainly fading. And if any team can just get hot, Texas, Seattle, like they could knock Houston out very quickly. It just hasn't happened yet. So, yes, I do think the Yankees win and maybe some complaining stops. But as I mentioned before, very tough to watch Jordan Lombard Jr. go through what he's going through right now. 5 games in a row with errors. I mean, that's something that's got to get fixed. But, they'll work on it. I'm sure that they probably did before the game today, Joe. That's what happens. You go through pregame defense and you get those sort of issues fixed. But, yeah, I do like the Yankees tonight. I think they're just far superior to Houston this year. But for whatever reason, Houston through the years has kind of had the Yankees number.
They have, though, honestly. But got to like the offense that we're finally starting to see there with the Yankees in this spot. Both bullpens. I mean, Elmer Rodriguez gave 6 1/3, almost 7 innings last night. Gave him an opportunity to rest here a little bit. But it's going to be all about the offense here, and can the offense get it going? I think they will, and I think they'll be good here tonight in this one. We talked about it. Dodgers and Atlanta. That's getting ready to get underway. That is still 6.5 as a total, but I'm sorry. You're not going to get Yamamoto at plus money, and the Dodgers often, they're on the verge of being swept here. You got to think that's playing a little bit there in that clubhouse too. No, with the Dodgers?
I would think so, yes. And you're right, Joe. We made the point in the first hour that there's a chance. I mean, certainly I was being a little bit facetious. I mean, the Dodgers probably will be plus money at some point the rest of the season. I can't imagine the whole year, but there's not going to be many games. There's under 30 games to play. My guess is 2 or 3, unless they clinch everything. And then the last game of the season or 2, maybe they would be dogs. But that's the story tonight. Chris Sale has been dominant pretty much every time he's gone out. I am with you a little bit. I think that it's a rare opportunity maybe to jump on LA and win. And let's be honest, Atlanta has not played as well in the second half as they have played in the first. The Dodgers have now surpassed them again in the standings for that seeding, which is going to be important because one of those two teams in all likelihood will have to play in the first round without a bye. LA has 80 wins, Atlanta with 78, excuse me, both.
78. Yeah. Hey, you still think it comes down to the wire there, Greg? What are you thinking? You think
Probably
Brewers end
so.
up with the best record, though? You think the Brewers are the ones that end up with the best record?
I do, yeah. I think Milwaukee will. They seem to be the most sound team and consistent team, and they really don't have to play amazing baseball in September to get there. So, yes. And then I think it is a coin flip between L.A. and Atlanta, and I'm not sure that Atlanta cares one way or the other because the last time Atlanta got the bye, they got knocked out in the first round. So, and they said that they weren't sharp enough. I don't know that it matters to them. Maybe matters a little bit more to L.A. because it seems like they're maybe more banged up than Atlanta, if that makes sense. But you know how it is, Joe. Whoever's hot in September, that's the team that you want to back.
Yeah, exactly. And that really is going to be the question moving forward is which one of these teams is going to put that winning streak together. And you mentioned the Guardians. They're off tonight, but the Guardians have been playing some pretty good baseball, finally playing some pretty good baseball. We've kind of been waiting for that. So maybe, just maybe, their time is coming. But the National League, I think, is going to be also down to what? Is it safe to say 2 teams now, Greg? Is it Arizona and the Padres, and that's it?
Well, look, I know the Marlins play Arizona and San Diego in September,
Yes.
so I'll keep them alive until then. But that will be the determining factor is when Miami goes there if they're still alive. But percentage-wise, over on Fangraphs, San Diego's percentage to make the playoffs right now is 61%. Arizona's is about 40%, and then Miami's is about 5%. So look, I mean, I'm going to call it how it is. The Marlins are going to have an uphill battle to get there, but they do have at least those games in front of them. Miami also has the toughest schedule in all of baseball remaining, too. There's not a lot going for them in this final month,
Yes.
and I get all that. But yes, look, San Diego, Joe, they've been one of the best teams since the All-Star break. They just keep winning. Arizona's had to weather the storm a little bit, but as we've talked about, and this is the unfortunate part for Miami a little bit, yes, San Diego plays Arizona. That doesn't help Miami. The fact that they play each other means really no ground to make up. And then the other part of this is that both of those teams play in that division where they get the Giants and the Rockies down the stretch. And Arizona is getting ready to start a 4-game series here this weekend with the Giants. So, I think the teams may go back and forth for a while just simply playing against those teams at the bottom of the West.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here. I know we still got some drama in the clubhouse there of Arizona, but they are playing tonight against the Giants. I do not understand this line very much. And I know they got the young guy there, Cabrera, on the mound, Arizona. But it's not like Landon Roop has been some sort of phenomenal pitcher here for the Giants. It's a pick-em price, Craig. And the Giants just gave up 8-9 runs in the ninth inning to the Reds to lose a game in the most epic way possible to fail. But what are we thinking here? To me, this is too good a price to pass up. I'll take the better team, who
Agreed.
I think can out-hit the Giants,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed.
Ultimately.
Agreed. I can't take the Giants after what they just have been going through. No, that's got to be a crushed clubhouse. That's not the kind of thing you wake up from and you can't wait to get to the park. I'm with you. I think Arizona wins the series relatively easily. 3 out of 4 probably would be most likely for me. Couple of quick scoring updates here, Joe, for you, because we don't generally get a lot of this. So back to Kansas City and Toronto. They're still in the top of the first inning. Kansas City had runners on first and third base. Salvador Perez, Joe, at the plate, hit a ball back to the pitcher. Tried to pick it up with his glove, and he whiffed. So it's now 2-0. All he had to do was literally pick up the ball and throw it to first base. He could not. Milwaukee is taking a 1-0 lead on the New York Mets. So we've got a lot of scoring here in the first inning of several games tonight.
We'll get you caught up with it all as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS, but then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. We've got scoring updates in Major League Baseball. And Craig, I think we got some scoring quickly in preseason football too. Buffalo at home, new stadium, new digs, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Pittsburgh already up 7-3. What are we, 5 minutes into the game here at this point? And we've already got 10 points on the board in Buffalo. What are you seeing here in Major League Baseball right now?
Well, I see the touchdown that was scored by Jeremy Bernard. Is that who it was that scored the rushing touchdown for Pittsburgh? I'm not familiar with his game. I'm going to be honest with you. Not all that familiar with his game, but as you said, some scoring there. Oh, that's right. That's right. He did play for Alabama. And then, yes, in Toronto, we have a 2-0 Royals lead. It looks like they are going to get out of the inning here. So that's what's the top of the first now. Noah Cameron will pitch to Toronto here in the bottom. And then Sean Manaea did not have a good first inning for the Mets as Milwaukee does lead 2-0. And it's always daunting when you're facing the Miz and you're already down 2-0, Joe, like in the first inning. Like that just can't be a good feeling. And so we'll see what ends up happening. Long game to go there. I think Atlanta, Joe, is on the board as well. They have a 1-0 lead on the Dodgers. A lot of early scoring in our games today.
Yeah, a lot of early action here, which we did not see maybe coming. But yes, we are going to have an opportunity, I think, here to get maybe some higher scoring games. But Miz taking the mound here for the Brewers. I think that's a home run, is it? It is a home run. 1-0 Atlanta here, I think.
Yeah, Drake Baldwin.
Yeah. Yamamoto, his first pitch. Like, is that it? I mean, I don't think he had. Was that his first pitch of the game?
Yes.
Gets lit up. Wow, I didn't see that coming. Not gonna lie. Well, there goes the shutout, I guess. 1-0 Atlanta on top of the Dodgers here. Houston, are Houston and the Yankees off and running yet, Craig?
Bottom first right now, 1 out. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so Cole got out of that one, 1-2-3. But Drake Baldwin with a home run. Chance of the Mets scoring off of Miz. What do you think?
I mean, maybe as the game goes on, again, they've played better and they can piece together some runs because they got, Benj and Ewing and these, fast moving guys, certainly a chance of that. But boy, a really bad sign for the Mets early here to be down 2-0, Joe. I got to be honest. Like, that's just not a good sign to start a game here, because then you're feeling already like, oh my gosh, we're not getting 3 runs tonight. Should we just pack it in? You hate to say that that's the mentality, but a big sigh, I would guess, in the Mets.
It is the mentality, right? Yeah, not good there. Not good. Also not good, although we'll keep an eye on this one too. I guess that's it. Arizona and San Francisco is coming up at 9:45, but that's tonight.
We got 4 baseball games.
Yep, Pittsburgh is and Buffalo also underway here, and I'm trying to figure out who is the quarterback for Buffalo right now, as they have a 3rd and 22. I can assure you it is not Josh Allen, but number 6 for Buffalo is at quarterback. Who is the Buffalo backup, by the way? Who's backing up Josh Allen? Because I'm
checking right now for you here.
It used to be Trubisky, but it's not Trubisky anymore. Oh,
Shane Buechele.
Yeah,
Texas
that's
quarterback.
That's not good. That's he's already crying. I could see the tears. So it's not Mizorowski. It's not. Wasn't it Trubisky forever? Wasn't he the backup at
He
Buffalo?
may still be. I mean, maybe he's not playing either tonight. I can't imagine Shane Buechele is their backup.
No, he's got to be a 3rd stringer there. But no, I mean, I believe Trubisky's on another team here, and I'm trying to remember which. He's gone. Yeah, he's gone, Trubisky.
Is he really?
Wow, that's not good. Oh, yeah, Kyle Allen, I think, is the other guy that might be there. But, yeah, no, not good here with Trubisky is definitely backing somebody else up. Maybe he went back to Chicago. Maybe that could be. Kyle Allen is the backup there for Buffalo. 2 quick outs, by the way. Lindor's just shaking his head, wondering where it all went wrong against Mizorowski here, but get
He's
used
a
to
tough
it.
guy.
A lot of guys have, yeah, he is here. And here's Guerrero batting second for Toronto. Guarantee he won't get a hit. Although Kansas City is now 2 on the board. 2-0
2-0,
now
top of the
Toronto.
first. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeez, now they're in the bottom of the first here. Guerrero's hitting second. He's batting 180. He's got 7 home runs. I have no idea how they're winning games without him. With him having only 7 home runs is kind of head scratching here, Craig. But the good news is plenty of baseball left to go. Houston and the Yankees, end of 1, no score. We'll keep an eye on that scoreboard, and I can't wait to hear what Craig thinks of the Boston Red Sox now that he saw them up close and personal.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS, but then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he can throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Here we go. Game time decisions on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. Plenty of Major League Baseball games on right now. Some good ones, too. Yankees, top of the second. That's a home run. Nope, he caught it. Never mind. Still no score there in the Yankees with Garrett Cole on the mound. You've got Miz with a 2-run lead. They are heading to the top of the second over the Mets. I'm thinking that might be all he needs there, Craig. Yamamoto gave up a first pitch home run to Baldwin. Atlanta's up 1-0 top of the second. Noah Cameron has a 2-0 lead over Toronto in that spot. And the Bills are down 7-3 in the first quarter against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you just got to see one of the better feel-good stories or best come-from-behind stories of the year with the Red Sox, who took on the Marlins this past week. So what were your impressions? What did you think of this Red Sox team who might be getting, I guess, Roman Anthony, maybe Crochet back? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, they remind me a lot of like some of those Brewerish Rays type teams, Joe. Like I don't think that Boston's going into the postseason hitting a bunch of home runs. Like I don't think so. Like I know that Willie Abreu can hit home runs, and Duran did hit a big home run. He hit a grand slam, but it's a lot of gap to gap hitting with this team. It really it's interesting. And if you think about, Roman Anthony has been out, he's coming back. Maybe Trevor Story's coming back for them as well. But their best players are kind of get on base, move a guy over, guy gets a double, guy gets a single, and that's how they're winning games, low scoring, and they're pitching, Joe. That's the difference. That's it's good without Judge in a matchup, and we're going to see 4 of them, I think, this weekend between the Yankees and Red Sox. But without Judge, the teams are very similar. The pitching is real good. They don't hit a ton, but I would be very worried about the Yankees playing the Red Sox in a series, because I think they're very similar. The Red Sox could easily win. You could make the case that the Red Sox may have the better pitching with Tolle, who's been way better than I ever would have imagined. Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray, maybe Crochet coming back too. Their bullpen is really good as well. I don't think the Red Sox are winning the World Series. I don't think they're winning the American League, but they're positioning themselves, I think, very well for the future, because in a day and age where you kind of have to have slug to win a World Series, I don't think they have that, but they're certainly good enough to make the playoffs, and they're definitely good enough to, I think, win a series, maybe 2. But I think, to me, like, Judge is the equalizer for the Yankees. Boston, Joe, they do not have a guy like that. They don't. They simply do not. Abreu's, he's had a great year, and he's going to hit 20 home runs and 25, whatever. But there's just, that 3-run home run. Where's that coming from Boston in the postseason? I don't think it's there. Again, they remind me of the Brewers. And by the way, they have 3 guys that used to play on the Brewers in their starting lineup too. That trade that they made when they traded Harrison to Milwaukee last year. So Mickey Gasper, Joe, Mickey Gasper hitting the ball like crazy. But again, credit to them. They put themselves back in the mix, and probably, to me, a chance to win a first round series from what I see in the playoffs. Nothing more than that. That's them this year.
Nothing. So what did you think? It was funny. Sonny Gray pitched at the game that you actually won, right? I believe it was.
Right. Yes. Jay.
What did you think about that there? Because I was like, oh,
they
boy,
made a lot of
up
errors
against it.
They made a lot of errors.
It was just errors.
Yeah.
So
they were out of the game quick.
You seeing anything different from him, though, this year?
No.
I mean, it's just a lot of things going his way, I guess.
Yeah, they remember Rutschman didn't play the final 2 games. Connor Wong, I thought Connor Wong was a defensive catcher. Joey made 3 errors in 2 games for them, the last 2 games. Yeah. Rutschman is a superior catcher to them. And look, what on the broadcast, we get like access to data and information and some talking points. So the only thing that I would say about Sonny Gray is that he's 16-4 now. There's no question that there's been some luck built in that, because he's gotten a lot of run support. And his FIP, his fielding independent pitching, his ERA should be worse than it is. But I'm not going to sit here and bang on Sonny Gray. Right. Like, he's had a really good year. He's going to start game 1 or game 2 for them in the postseason, unless Crochet, magically comes back here at the end and starts dominating. But really, the guy, Joe, next year that I would say take a look at, like Cy Young Award wise, would be Tolle. Absolutely. I think next season.
You're impressed.
Yes, I think it's like Skeens from the left side, Joe. Yeah, and really? if he gets himself a little bit in better shape, where he can finish games, get a little bit deeper into the game. It seemed like he tired out against Miami early, and that's an indoor park. That shouldn't happen. I think he is an emerging star in the big leagues. Peyton Tolle, absolutely.
Yeah. But they need that equalizer, and they just don't have it right now, and that's the problem with the Red Sox there. Interesting stuff. Pittsburgh has run it in now, 14-3 over Buffalo there 2 minutes ago in the first quarter. A little preseason action. I believe the Brewers have figured out a way to put 2 more runs on the board via a Churio home run.
Yep, 4-0.
After Minea gave up a 2-out. That's it. Game is way over there.
I'm switching the game.
Yep, that game is over there. And it's funny, it was a 2-out bunt single that kept the inning going by the number 9 hitter there of the Brewers. So what did you think? I don't know if you saw that story the other night, Craig, though, but Brewers manager has got a rookie, Pratt, up the plate, doesn't hustle, pulls him. That's baseball to me here, right? Isn't that the message you're sending?
I watched that play a few times. I'm not sure that was fair to Pratt. He didn't know the ball was fair. He didn't know where the ball was. I don't know. Pat Murphy's the best, and he's probably manager of the year again. I thought that was a little tough on Cooper Pratt. Sometimes when you I mean, I guess it goes
He
back to
did
Little
watch
League,
it
Joe.
a little bit, though. He was
For a
watching
second,
it a little bit.
Yeah, it was again a little debatable for me. Me. I know you're taught, from the lowest levels in Little League baseball and on, Joe. As soon as you hit the ball, you run. He definitely did not do that. Like, he didn't know where it went. But something like that, Joe, I personally think that's something that's building, would be a guess for me. Right. I don't know that he's ever done that before, but you would guess there's something that's gone on for him for Murphy to do that, to pull that card in that spot.
My question is, do you think he does it again this year?
No.
Think he ever?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I was gonna say, something tells me whether it's fair, foul, he'll be on third base, whether it's a foul ball or not. It's not gonna make a difference. So lesson learned there. Unbelievable. Well, still 1-0, by the way. Chris Sale looks exceptionally good here, and I don't know if the Dodgers are just taking far too many pitches, but it feels like he's 1-2, 0-2 every at bat here so far. So Sale is looking good, up 1-0, bottom of the second. Also, Kansas City, Toronto still 2-0. Although I think, Toronto, I get Rojas with another single. Kansas City all of a sudden being able to score some runs makes at least makes them interesting the rest of the way, Craig, because they're never going to be a favorite, are they?
No, Miami is there next week, so I'll be watching them closely. That's a big series for the Marlins that play the Royals, I believe, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. But yeah, look, they've played better baseball, and their bullpen is doing a much better job, and they're doing it with bullpen arms that aren't necessarily guys that they counted on at the beginning of the season. This is only within the last month. If you look at their bullpen stats from April through July, it's hideous. And they're hitting the ball a little bit better. They still have Witt. They still have Caglione. Pasquantino a little bit better than what he's been. It's not that I necessarily believe in the Royals, but it's like 30 games are left to go, Joe. 15-15. Sure. Yeah, I could see that from the Royals.
I could see that. I could see some good plus money too from a team that can score some runs here that everyone thinks is not good. I think there's some opportunities.
They're playing much better.
But much better baseball. Yeah, that'd be good. You have a chance to see them against Miami. It's a big series coming up here as well. Mm-hmm. All right, we've got an update from Yankee Stadium here. We'll see if the Yankees can get the ball rolling. We'll check in if there's any errors in that game. In the meantime, Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS. But then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay. It's time. Let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Here we go. Game time decisions on the SportsGrid network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish here as we've got some Major League Baseball games underway. Heck of a battle, pitcher's battle right now at Atlanta. Yamamoto gives up a leadoff home run to Drake Baldwin, but outside of that, Chris Sale and him have pretty much mowed them down. You also have Garrett Cole. He's throwing right now there against the Astros. No score there in the top of the third. In fact, the only game over in the third inning is really this Met game where Mizorowski's up 4-0. And I'm not quite sure how you're coming back from that, New York Mets. Not as long as Miz is in there. I don't think they have a run yet, a hit yet, much less anything else. No, they don't. So bottom of the second, 2 outs there, 4-0. This could be one of those take it on the chin kind of games from Manea. What do you think? Eat up a few more innings?
Yeah, I don't know what the Mets bullpen situation is over the last couple days, but yeah, I mean, look, they're going to ask Manea to pitch 5 innings tonight, Joe, unless he gives up 10 runs. But that's about as daunting as it gets. We talked about 2-0. I mean, try a scenario where the score is 4-0. That's like almost an impossibility. So yeah, I would expect, of course, the Brewers to win tonight. They're probably minus $1 million at this point to win, so why even mess with it? Royals, by the way, get another run. This is Jack Caglione with a blue pit to right field, so they are at 3 now, and so their team total is at 1 away. Joe, would it be 1 run away, maybe from them
one run away
in the third
That's
third
correct.
inning already?
3.5 would have been good. I'm with you. I like it. I think the Royals, they're going to be sneaky value looking at them moving forward here. So we'll keep an eye on that game. Arizona and San Francisco is the only other game out on the board here tonight on this Thursday. But we do have some games coming up over the weekend here, Craig, which I think are also going to be interesting for some teams. I mean, Skubal, I believe, they're leaving Atlanta here, heading to Detroit. And Skubal, I think, is scheduled to pitch against his former Detroit Tigers teammates there tomorrow night. But, boy, getting swept by Atlanta would not be a great look there. Not to mention Skubal hasn't exactly been mowing them down as a Dodger here. And, yeah, he's given up his fair share of runs, too. Boy, that would have to be kind of must-watch television tomorrow.
I think so. That's that must be the Apple TV game if I had to guess. I don't know what game is on there tomorrow, but that sounds like their national game. But yeah, like Snell has come back. I feel like he's done a pretty good job. I mean, Joe, they're just going to keep having guys come back and pitch. The Dodgers have no issues in the lineup. Pitching, bullpen, they almost have nothing. Edwin Diaz, I guess that's like the signing that they look at right now, and we're like, that, wow, what a complete waste that was this season. But even still, it doesn't matter. They have enough guys to get outs anyway. So the most intriguing story for the Dodgers, without a doubt, down the stretch, if there even is one for the next month, is what's going to be of Ohtani. He definitely pitched this week. There's like some mystery behind it, but he definitely threw something this week. We don't know exactly what, a bullpen, live session, I'm not sure. He's not doing that, Joe, without coming back. So I don't know if Ohtani is back next week, and I don't know if he's back the week after that, but he's coming back. He's going to pitch. I mean, he's playing tonight. Obviously, he's facing Sale as I'm watching the game right now, but he's going to pitch, Joe, this season, before the end of the season. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah, without it. They were saying maybe over the weekend. We'll see how it goes in that one. But those Red Sox that you saw heading to Yankee Stadium for a big weekend series there, Sandoval taking on Schlittler for the Yankees. So this is, pretty big rubber match here. It feels like the Yankees in Houston and the Red Sox kind of beat up the Yankees last time, if I'm not mistaken.
They did.
So, yeah, it would be nice to see, and again, for a team that is rolling like the Yankees right now, has the better record, you would, I don't know that these teams are on equal footing, but it certainly feels like that's how it is going to be portrayed here. And your Marlins had some success against Washington, Craig, if I'm not mistaken, here not too long ago. Now they go on the road to take on the Nats. kind of must-win games. I mean, you got to win the ones you're supposed to win, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, Yankees Red Sox 4-game series. They'll play a doubleheader Saturday, so that'll be the the big decider in the series. And the Marlins and Nationals play 4 games as well, but it's a wraparound series, which means that Miami will play in Washington on Monday. But yes, you're right. Miami has to win, I think, 3 of these games. Asking a team to win 4 in a row is almost impossible. Washington played in the games that I saw as bad as any team I saw coming in. They absolutely couldn't hit. So what's the difference now? Well, I mean, C.J. Abrams was second in terms of MVP in the National League for a while. He's back for Washington. So I assume that gives them a little bit more juice going into the weekend because, Joe, last weekend, the Nationals scored 5 runs in 3 games against Miami. It was absolutely like
terrible.
Once the Marlins went up, it was like over, so and Washington's bullpen is taxed. They cut Michaelis, they cut Littell, they cut Trevor Williams. They've been cutting pitchers left and right and just throwing young kids out there. So I'm hopeful that it's a good series for Miami because a series split does nothing for them. And based on the way that the Padres are playing right now, to me, the Padres are playing as good as baseball as anybody. But look, the Red Sox have played the best baseball for 2 months. Okay, that's a fact. But beyond that, San Diego is been on fire. They're winning almost every game, Joe.
Yep, it's kind of crazy. And what a series that is tomorrow, beginning at the Trop. Right, the Padres take on the Rays, and 2 teams that are kind of looking to finish strong here. And the Rays at home, they got a little struggle going on there at home. Baltimore beat them up pretty good there. Toronto had some success. Then they had a chance to go away for a quick series, and now they're back home taking on the Padres. Casey Mize versus McClanahan there. I think that's going to be a very interesting weekend series, no?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even realize San Diego's in Tampa after being in Miami earlier in the year. Wouldn't it have just been easier for them to play the Marlins?
That's what I'm thinking.
The Rays?
Right?
That's weird. That's weird. Look, Rays have not played great. I'm not worried at all, though. This has been going on probably 2-3 weeks. But the Rays are feeling very confident in their postseason picture, and San Diego has to have their foot on the pedal. So it would not shock me to see San Diego win the series this weekend. They're playing that well, but it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily concerned about Tampa Bay either.
They've been strange, right? They've won 4 of 6, the Padres. They're 16-8 in August, Craig, and yet they're 31-34 on the road. Interesting. Well, we know how good Tampa has been at home. We'll see if that continues as we've got more game time decisions for you coming up on the grid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the conference. It's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS. But then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
There. All right, welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we look to close out this edition. Getting ready, of course. Plenty more top of the hour coming up for the NFL preseason. The Browns trying to figure out who their backup quarterback is going to be. That should be interesting. Tommy DeVito trying to secure the backup role there for the Patriots. That's coming up just after the top. Vegas and the 49ers will also take center stage. And then the Rams and the Chargers. That game will be your late night action. In the meantime, I don't think we've seen, I think Houston ended up scoring a run there off of Garrett Cole there, Craig. 1-0, it looks like Houston on top of the Yanks.
Yes, 1-0. Houston, bottom of the third inning in that game. You're right. Houston did score one run. As you talk, I'll check out and see what happened. I can only watch so many games at once here. I don't have the 8 screen going here.
I saw it was 0-0, and then I saw one parade. Okay, with a single to score with 2 outs to get a run across, and Yanks have a runner on right now in the bottom of the third. We'll see if that can mount into anything here. But we do have a 14-3 Pittsburgh Steelers lead. They've kind of taken it to Buffalo early in this one. 10 minutes to go in the second quarter there. And again, backups, and more backups here. Who is the quarterback going to be backing up a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers? That is the big question. And now all of a sudden I'm looking at some of these games still to come here tomorrow for a pretty big weekend series. Minnesota better be careful here, Greg. I hate to say it. I don't know how they lost a couple of games to the Athletics, but they did. Now they got the White Sox coming up, and if they're not careful, their season could be over by the time Monday rolls around here.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me. I've been waiting for that to happen here for a while. In Minnesota, to their credit, just keep hanging in there constantly. So good by them. And look, I mean, they pushed it down. They tried hanging around the 500 mark. Nobody still has separated themselves from that. And so literally Minnesota could be in this, Joe, till the very end. I don't see them with any scenario with them winning the division. I just don't. But that wild card spot, that final one, will Texas separate? Will Seattle separate? Will Cleveland separate? None of these teams seem to want to do it. And I mean, even the Blue Jays still feel like they're in it somehow. Joe, the reality is we're going to be sitting here the last weekend of the season, and the wild card teams are going to get determined. I just don't think anything's going to happen until then.
I agree. 4-0, by the way. Kansas City now on top of Toronto. And Kansas City has an interesting series coming up against the Guardians. KC will be, as soon as they're done here, against Toronto. And again, they're looking pretty good already, up 4-0 in Toronto. They'll travel to take on the Guardians, Walker versus Bybee. And, well, all of a sudden, two teams playing maybe their best baseball that we've seen in a long time here, Craig.
Absolutely. So that shakes out. I mean, look, it's not going to be a marquee series, and look, the reality for baseball in some way, and we were talking about this yesterday when I was at the baseball game. The reality for baseball is that you and I, certainly are following this, and you are following it, I know, very intensely all season long. But the general baseball fan is still going to follow the playoff chases. But the big difference after this weekend, as we know, let's be honest, is college football is here, and college football begins this weekend, and Saturday is week 0, and then week 1 is next week. So the attention span for a lot of just the general sports fans, if they're not intense baseball fans, is going to start to move over to some other things. So a series like Kansas City, Cleveland this weekend may be the last time that just the average fan is watching teams like that. And that's good. Next year, they may look, Kansas City maybe goes on a run in September. They don't win anything, but maybe they're better, as we're talking about. We won't even remember that because everyone will be watching football by that point. It's just true. So to me, that's part of it too, because I know that for me, I'll be on Saturday morning from 10 to 12 getting everybody ready for that matchup, and I'm starting to look at it as well And for the first time all year, I'm looking more toward some college football matchups than I am for some baseball matchups doing shows this weekend too. So that doesn't, and by the way, your home teams and your playoff chases, it changes nothing in September. For Arizona, San Diego, LA, Atlanta, New York, Boston, Tampa, they're all still very much locked in. But fans around the league are all of a sudden going to tune in 12 o'clock on Saturday and see TCU play North Carolina. They're like, wait a second, I guess college football has begun.
College football has begun. In fact, tonight, little FCS action underway.
Oh, is that right?
Can you believe that? Got a little FCS action here. That's right. Youngstown State and Maine going at it. Or Youngstown State blowing out Mercyhurst, by the way. Stony Brook and Delaware State going at it. So, yes, that's exactly. We have got some. I didn't even believe Mississippi Valley State had a football team. I thought they only lost at basketball, but apparently I was wrong in that. Good news is in-game live game days coming your way. They'll have you covered. Well, Craig and I will see you again over the weekend for some college football. Enjoy the games. We'll see you then.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
It's kind of cut and dry that the Dodgers are going to win it, which is not a guarantee. This is not taxes and death, so to speak. The Dodgers can lose games. We've seen it. They had a long losing streak. So the Dodgers could maybe fall off. You never know. Now, I do expect them to make the playoffs, and I expect them to win the division, and I expect them to win the NLDS. But then anything after that, I think is suspect.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle that's been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.